A controversial Central Election Commission, a bill to appoint the CEC of the country is going to be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. This was first introduced in the monsoon session. It's a bill that's been cleared in the Lok Sabha. There have been several changes that were proposed, several amendments that were proposed to the bill, many of which the government has conceded on. But the opposition largely believes that this is a bill that will essentially give undue powers to the Prime Minister as far as the appointment of the Election Commissioner of India is concerned. And it does assume a lot of significance given the fact that we are going into the 2024 general election. My colleagues Vasudha Venugopal and Sunil Prabhu are joining us live from Parliament. They've been covering this story extensively, but we also have former CEC S.Y. Qureshi joining us on the broadcast. I want to first get in a word. Dr. Qureshi, to you first. This is a bill that the opposition believes will essentially dilute the powers, the tenure, and give undue control to the government as far as the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner is concerned. However, the government has now crucially climbed down on one of the main contentious things, which was reducing the stature in a certain sense of the Chief Election Commissioner to that of a Cabinet Secretary. The government has clarified that no, they will still enjoy the same position as that of a Supreme Court judge. How do you look at the broad contours of this bill? You've also made a representation regarding this bill, haven't you?
Yes. I had mentioned when the bill was originally introduced that it has some positive features, some negative things. First, the negative, the most serious negative was that the stature of the CEC and the ECs was being downgraded from the rank of a Supreme Court judge to the Cabinet Secretary, which had international ramifications because, we are Election Commission of India is already recognized as a wish guru. Almost 108, 110 countries have come to our training institute, IIDEM in Delhi in the last 12 years to train from us, their commissioners, their top management. So in such a situation, when half the election commissioners of the world are of the rank of judges and chief justices, so for them to deal with an election commission which is headed by a bureaucrat,
yes,
would have been compromising our position. So I'm glad that if I hear correctly from you, that position has been reconsidered by the government,
right,
and that thing has been restored. That's a good thing.
Crucially, Dr. Qureshi, if you could also put in perspective the criticism that's coming in from the opposition. The panel that is going to be appointing the CEC is going to be headed by the Prime Minister. There is also a Union Minister on this panel now who is going to be appointed by the Prime Minister, and that position of Union Minister is essentially coming in because the Chief Justice of India has been replaced. And then, of course, there is the leader of opposition part of the panel. The opposition believes that this gives undue powers to the government to influence the appointment of a CEC, a very grievous allegation that is being made at a time when we're heading into general election. How do you look at the criticism?
I find this argument is a little unacceptable because currently what is the position? Prime Minister has an absolute power as an individual, and in the proposed thing he will have the absolute power through a collegium because he and his colleague will be 2 members and leader of opposition will be outnumbered. To say that more power is going to the PM, actually PM has the maximum power at the moment. He decides who will be the EC and CEC currently. Therefore, that is not the way to look at it or put it. However, the idea of a collegium, which has been practiced in India for a long time,
right,
for the appointment of judges and other appointments. So now the collegium consisting of 2 of the government and 1 of the opposition means,
yes,
sitting here today, you can determine that the leader of opposition, his opinion will have no meaning. I have suggested a slight amendment. Even if this is the composition of the collegium, let the decision be unanimous, which is easy. After all, the 5 people who will be given by the shortlisting committee,
right,
they would have pre-cleared by the Prime Minister. Let the opposition leader pick up anyone from the 5.
It's also the search committee will comprise of the law minister and 2 senior officials, and many believe that this is in a certain sense diluting what the earlier provision was. My final question to you, sir, is what
No,
is
no, 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 no.
necessitated?
Just a minute.
What is
Just a minute.
necessitated
No,
this
no,
amendment?
Hold on. It's not a dilution of the earlier proposal. This is an
No, I said it's
improvement of the proposal.
it's believed to be. The opposition believes it to be a dilution.
No. Let me tell you how it is an improvement. Earlier, this committee was to be headed by the cabinet secretary. Now, how can cabinet secretary be selecting somebody higher than him? And that is when we had objected. And I'm glad that the concerns have been addressed by the government, and it has now been upgraded to the law minister. This is an improvement, I would say.
All right. So you're saying, I think that's a very balanced perspective. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to, however, take this to Sunil and Vasudha, who also covered this story extensively. Sunil, to you first. I think very interesting what S.Y. Qureshi has put in perspective, that there were several of these recommendations that were actually made, and they don't believe that this is necessarily a dilution, but in fact, many of the changes were long-term coming. What is the main criticism now of the opposition after the government has accepted that the position of the CEC will be at par with that of Supreme Court judges?
Well, I think you have to get to the fundamentals. Why is the bill coming in the first place? And
Yes.
what Mr. Qureshi hasn't actually addressed is that. Why has it come? Because of the fact that the Chief Election Commissioner's appointment was struck down by the Supreme Court. In a unanimous judgment, they said no more can it be a government domain of the Prime Minister. And so it's slightly misleading what Mr. Qureshi was pointing out. What is a fact today is that there is a 5-judge bench, unanimous judgment, saying that there will be a panel of the Prime Minister, of the Chief Justice of India, and the Leader of Opposition. And they made a proviso till ultimate Parliament decides and brings a law to enact it. That is why this bill is coming in the first place. So let's put that in perspective. Now that the bill has come in place, they are replacing the CGI with the Union Minister so as to have complete government control. Why did the 5 judges in the Supreme Court decide on this matter? This has been pending for many, many years, for decades. And there has been huge controversy. No less than the leader of opposition at that time, Mr. L.K. Advani, way back in 1995 when I started journalism, had said that there should be a committee appointed. But successive governments, when they came to power, never attempted to bring in a committee like this in the appointment of a free and fair empire. Why is the CEC so important? In the run-up to elections, they have to play an important role.
Well, absolutely.
The opposition has been accusing the government of the Election Commission of being biased. And it's in that context that you need to have somebody who's appointed above board. As you saw, the appointment of Arun Joshi, one of the members, was done in one day completely, from his removal, from his retiring as an IAS officer to his appointment as an election commission. It's in this backdrop that they've asked now for a search committee, where he says now the search committee will be constituted no more of the cabinet secretary, but of the law minister. But there's an SP Barucha judgment, which very clearly says there has to be certain guidelines for the search committee to be appointed. The ultimate decision has to be done by by the Prime Minister and the panel that will take over. And it's in this context that the opposition has raised a number of objections of this. Of course, right now, majority is not with them, so this bill will definitely be passed. But this will definitely be subsequently challenged in the Supreme Court. It's another matter whether they will say Parliament is supreme and that they have no say in the matter. But the fact is that this is definitely a dilution of a unanimous judgment of 5 judges headed by K.M. Joseph, who had struck down and said that this can no more be the exclusive domain of the government.
How is the government, Vasudha, how is the government responding to that criticism that's coming in from the quarters of the opposition, the questions that are being asked at the moment? And, like Sunil pointed out, this is extremely crucial given the fact that this is an amendment, a crucial amendment that is going to see the light of day because the government has the majority to pass this bill in the run-up to the 2024 election. How is the government countering this criticism?
Well, Rishika, I spoke to government sources there. While the bill is all set to be moved in the Rajya Sabha today, Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal is introducing it. There were certain concerns that 9 CEC had flagged and they had written directly to the Prime Minister. And what I hear from my government sources is that many changes have been incorporated, and it's basically this new bill will also look at 2 main aspects. One is it does not look at downgrading the stature of the CEC to that of, cabinet secretary or a bureaucrat. This is something that the opposition had flagged, saying that this would impact the authority and the autonomy and the working of CECs when you reduce them to a bureaucrat. You know, the service condition rules are such that the old rules, basically the existing rules, say that they are equivalent to a Supreme Court judge, and the new rules were looking at reducing them or demoting them to a cabinet secretary, which is what the government is trying to oppose and say that according to table of precedents, there is no such move. But of course, I spoke to Law Ministry sources on this in the Parliament, and they said that they have taken care of all these things and they have incorporated certain changes. Of course, that will come to know when the Law Minister introduces, the bill in the Rajya Sabha today. Remember that this was introduced in the Rajya Sabha on the last day of the monsoon session. But remember that apart from that, there's of course, the legislature, 33% reservation for women in J&K legislature and also in Puducherry that Home Minister Amit Shah is likely to bring about. And Rishika, let me also tell you that I just saw the Home Minister Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who's also one of the external observers for Rajasthan, leave the parliament. So clearly a lot of shadow is on Rajasthan's probable, CM face. So a lot of discussions on that, but clearly the newest flashpoint between the government and opposition on the CEC bill that is going to be introduced in a few hours from now.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us with the very latest on that. So Vasudha and Sunil giving us both sides. What is the government's thinking? How is the government responding to criticism? And also the main contours of the criticism that the opposition has over this controversial CEC amendment bill that is going to be tabled in the Rajya Sabha today. And well, we'll see the light of day. We're going to continue to track the details of this story.